Imagine a quiet morning in late May, where the sun filters through the thick canopy of a Wisconsin forest, and the only sound is the rustle of leaves underfoot. 3 young girls, barely 12 years old, wander into the woods of David's Park, laughing and playing a game of hide and seek. But beneath the innocent facade of childhood play, a dark, supernatural obsession has taken root. And a plan conceived in the shadows of the internet is about to culminate in a horrific act of violence. What began as a birthday celebration is seconds away from becoming a national nightmare, proving that sometimes the monsters we create in our minds can drive us to do the unthinkable. Before we dive deeper into this chilling case, remember to comment, like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes of the Calendar of Crime. Your support helps us bring these stories to light and explore the darkest corners of history together. Now, let's return to the woods of Waukesha and the day a fictional legend nearly claimed a very real life. In the spring of 2014, Waukesha, Wisconsin, was the picture of Midwestern tranquility. It was here that Morgan Geyser and Payton Leutner, known to her friends as Bella, shared the kind of bond only childhood best friends can understand. They were inseparable, navigating the complexities of middle school together, until a third girl, Anissa Weier, entered the circle. Anissa and Morgan lived in the same apartment complex and quickly bonded over a shared interest that would eventually alienate Payton: a fascination with the dark, eerie world of internet, creepypasta. The center of their obsession was a figure known as Slender Man. Created in 2009 as a digital ghost story, Slender Man was depicted as a tall, faceless entity in a black suit with tentacle-like appendages, known for stalking and abducting children. While most saw him as a harmless piece of modern folklore, Morgan and Anissa began to believe he was terrifyingly real. To them, he wasn't just a story. He was a master they needed to serve, a being who watched them from the tree line and demanded a sacrifice to prove their worth. The girls believed that by killing someone, they would become proxies of Slender Man, earning the right to live with him in his mythical mansion in the Nicolet National Forest. For months, they whispered about their plan, debating how and when to strike. They initially considered killing Payton in her sleep during a sleepover, or perhaps in a public bathroom where the blood could be easily washed away. Each time, their nerves failed them, but the pressure of their perceived duty to the faceless monster only grew stronger. On May 30th, 2014, the girls gathered at Morgan's house to celebrate her 12th birthday. On the surface, it was a typical pre-teen party with pizza, movies, and laughter. But inside Morgan's bedroom, the atmosphere was heavy with a secret Payton couldn't possibly fathom. Morgan and Anissa had decided that this was the weekend it would finally happen. They tucked a 5-inch kitchen knife into a bag, waiting for the sun to rise on a day that would change all their lives forever. The next morning, May 31st, the trio headed to David's Park under the guise of a morning walk. The weather was beautiful, and Payton, trusting her best friends, followed them deep into the wooded areas of the park. They stopped at a public restroom first, where Morgan and Anissa once again hesitated, unable to follow through with the act in such a sterile environment. They decided the woods offered the privacy and the natural setting they felt Slender Man required for his sacrifice. Deep within the trees, they suggested a game of hide and seek. Anissa told Payton to lie on the ground and cover herself with leaves, claiming it was part of the game. It was a cruel trick designed to make Payton vulnerable. As Payton lay there, confused but compliant, the tension between the two attackers reached a breaking point. Morgan held the knife, her hands shaking, while Anissa urged her on, whispering that they had to do it now, or they would never be safe from Slender Man's wrath. Suddenly, the playfulness vanished. Morgan lunged at Payton, the kitchen knife flashing in the dappled sunlight. Payton fought back, screaming in terror and confusion, asking her best friend why she was doing this. But Morgan was relentless, driven by a deep-seated delusion that she was saving herself and Anissa from a greater evil. She stabbed Payton 19 times, targeting her arms, legs, and torso, with one thrust coming within a hair's breadth of a major artery near her heart. Once the attack ceased, Payton lay bleeding and gasping for air. Morgan and Anissa, seemingly shocked by the reality of what they had done, told Payton to stay quiet and lie still, promising they would go and get help. It was a lie. Instead of seeking a medic or a police officer, the two 12-year-olds walked away, leaving their friend to die in the dirt. They began a trek toward the Nicolet National Forest, hundreds of miles away, believing Slender Man was waiting for them to come home. Left alone in the woods, Payton Leutner refused to give up, despite 19 stab wounds and a punctured lung. She managed to drag herself through the brush toward the edge of the forest. Every inch was an agony, her body screaming for her to stop. But she knew that if she stayed in the shadows, she would never be found. She eventually reached a grassy patch near a bike path, where she collapsed, her vision fading as her body fought to stay alive. A local cyclist named Greg Steinberg was out for a morning ride when he spotted something unusual in the grass. At first, he thought it was a discarded doll or a pile of clothes, but as he drew closer, he realized it was a child covered in blood. He rushed to her side, and Payton, barely able to speak, managed to tell him that she had been stabbed. Steinberg called 911 immediately, staying with her and offering what comfort he could until the sirens began to wail in the distance. The medical team that treated Payton at the hospital was stunned by her survival. One of the stab wounds had missed her heart by less than a millimeter. The pulsation of her aorta was actually visible through the wound. Surgeons worked for hours to repair the damage to her internal organs, including her liver and stomach. Against all odds, the young girl who had been left for dead in the woods was stable, her resilience proving to be stronger than the blades of her attackers. While Payton was being rushed into surgery, police launched a massive manhunt for Morgan and Anissa. They were found hours later, walking along an interstate, still carrying the blood-stained knife in a backpack. When they were brought into the interrogation room, they didn't act like typical criminals. They were calm, almost matter of fact, as they explained their motive. They told the detectives about Slender Man, the proxies, and the mansion, speaking about the fictional character as if he were a living, breathing person. The girls' confessions were chilling. Morgan described the stabbing with a haunting lack of emotion, explaining that she felt she had no choice. She believed that if she didn't kill Payton, Slender Man would kill her entire family. Anissa, meanwhile, admitted to egging Morgan on, acting as the planner for the mission. The world watched in horror as the details of the case emerged, sparking a massive debate about the influence of internet culture on the developing minds of children. As the legal proceedings began, the focus shifted to the mental health of the two girls. Morgan Geyser was eventually diagnosed with early-onset schizophrenia, a condition her father also suffered from. Experts testified that she had been experiencing hallucinations for years, seeing ghosts and hearing voices that she believed were real. This diagnosis changed the course of the trial, as it became clear that the girls weren't just evil, but were suffering from profound psychological breaks from reality. Both girls were eventually found not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. Anissa Weier was sentenced to 25 years in a psychiatric facility, while Morgan Geyser received a 40-year sentence. The case left a permanent mark on the community of Waukesha and the world at large, serving as a grim reminder of the fragility of the human mind and the unexpected ways that digital myths can manifest in the physical world. Today, Payton Leutner is a survivor in every sense of the word. She has moved on with her life, pursuing her education and refusing to let the trauma of that May morning define her. Anissa Weier was granted conditional release in 2021, while Morgan Geyser remains under psychiatric care, recently making headlines for a brief escape attempt that ended in her swift recapture. Their story remains a cornerstone of true crime history, a cautionary tale of friendship, delusion, and the shadows that lurk behind a computer screen. Thanks for watching. Please comment, share, like and subscribe for future episodes from the Calendar of Crime.